I'd been looking forward to Lisa's return all week. The house felt emptier without her laughter bouncing off the walls, her quick footsteps on the stairs, the way she filled our home with a kind of energy I'd come to depend on. But as the days passed, that warmth had been replaced by a creeping unease. This time felt different. She hadn't called as much, and when she did, our conversations were short, clipped, filled with pauses I couldn't quite place. I brushed it off, convincing myself she was just busy with work. But the moment she walked through the door, I could feel a shift between us, subtle but undeniable. She gave me a tight smile, her eyes darting away as she brushed past me with her suitcase. "Hey, welcome back," I said, going in for a hug. She held me, briefly, before stepping back. "Thanks. It's good to be home." The words felt flat. She was usually the one who'd pull me close, hold me as if to make up for the days apart. But this time, it was like I was embracing a stranger. I offered to take her bag upstairs. "I'll get it. You must be exhausted." "Actually, I'll take care of it," she replied quickly, reaching for the handle. Her hand was just a little too tight, knuckles white against the worn leather. I paused, taken aback. "Are you sure?" "I don't mind." She hesitated, then forced a small laugh. "Really, I got it. It's just, kind of heavy." She was gone before I could say anything else, hurrying up the stairs, leaving me standing there, still holding on to that awkwardness, a chill settling into my bones. The evening wore on, a series of small, strained exchanges, awkward silences. She hardly looked me in the eyes, always busying herself with unpacking or answering emails that just couldn't wait. Finally, she excused herself, saying she needed a shower. I sat on the edge of the bed, my eyes drifting to her suitcase, half open at the foot. A small voice in my head warned me to leave it alone. To trust her. But there was another voice, louder, sharper, reminding me of all the times she had been distant lately, how she'd been going on more trips, calling less, avoiding my touch. Before I knew it, I was unzipping the suitcase completely, fingers trembling slightly. Inside, her clothes were neatly folded, everything in its usual order. My heart slowed, and I let out a relieved sigh. Maybe I was just being paranoid, but as I went to close it, something caught my eye, tucked between two shirts, barely visible, were a men's silk tie and a pair of cufflinks. I pulled them out, staring at them in disbelief. The tie was sleek, expensive looking, not the kind of thing I would own. I traced my fingers over the cufflinks, my mind racing, each heartbeat heavier than the last. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. When Lisa came back into the room, wrapped in a towel, she froze, her eyes darting from the tie in my hand to my face. A flash of panic crossed her expression before she managed to mask it, but it was too late. "What's this, Lisa?" I held up the tie, my voice unsteady but hardening with each word. "Who does this belong to?" She opened her mouth, then shut it, looking down, and I felt a surge of anger I could barely contain. "Well?" I demanded. "Are you going to explain this, or am I just supposed to guess?" She took a shaky breath, then forced a laugh, the sound brittle and empty. "You're overreacting. It's from a coworker. We were out at dinner, and he left it behind. I was going to give it back." "A coworker?" I repeated, incredulous. "Since when do you bring home someone else's tie and cufflinks, Lisa? Do you think I'm that stupid?" Her face fell, and for a moment, something almost like guilt flickered in her eyes. She glanced away, her shoulders tense. "I didn't think it was a big deal." "You didn't think it was a big deal?" I echoed, voice rising. "To bring another man's things into our home? You expect me to believe you were just holding on to them out of kindness?" She crossed her arms, her expression turning defiant. "Why are you acting like this? It's not what you think." "Then what is it, Lisa?" I snapped. "If it's not what I think, then please enlighten me, because right now, it seems like I'm looking at proof of you betraying me." Her silence spoke volumes, each second without an answer sending another crack through whatever trust was left. I felt something break inside me, like a dam giving way, releasing a flood of raw hurt, confusion, and anger. She finally whispered, I didn't want this to happen. What did you think would happen, Lisa? I shot back, voice shaking. Did you think I wouldn't find out? That I wouldn't care? Were you hoping I'd just overlook it? She looked down, no longer trying to argue, no longer fighting. It was as if, in that one moment, all her defenses crumbled. And that was it. I didn't need any more explanations, no more justifications. The truth was right there, and it was all I needed to know. Then let me make this clear, I said, voice barely above a whisper. I want a divorce. The days after our confrontation were a blur of anger, confusion, and disbelief. I couldn't stop replaying that moment, the image of Lisa standing there, unable to give a real answer, unable to deny the truth. But a part of me wanted proof, solid evidence that would leave no room for excuses. I didn't just want suspicions, I wanted certainty. I had never been the kind of person to snoop, to go behind her back, but now I was driven by something I didn't recognize. Late one night, when sleep refused to come, I found myself standing outside her office. I hadn't been in there in months, it had always been her private space. I opened the door, the faint scent of her perfume lingering in the air, and stepped inside. Her desk was meticulously organized. But as I started opening drawers, flipping through files, I noticed that not everything was as orderly as it seemed. Beneath some travel documents, I found a stack of receipts and invoices, all addressed to her but with a name I'd never seen before, David. The first few receipts were innocuous, dinners, flights, hotel stays. But then I saw the dates. Each one lined up perfectly with the nights she had been working late or out of town. David, I whispered the name out loud, trying to make sense of it. My heart pounded as I kept searching, and finally, I found something that shattered whatever small hope I had left, an email exchange printed out, discussing a business investment in David's name, a venture I knew nothing about. The email was littered with personal comments, hints of shared experiences that were more than professional. I felt my grip tighten on the papers. I had what I needed. I'd found the truth. The next morning, I tracked down David's business address. It wasn't hard to find, Lisa had even left some of the information on her desk. I made my way downtown, the cold morning air doing nothing to ease the storm brewing inside me. I didn't know what I'd say or how he'd react, but I knew I had to look him in the eye, see the man who had helped ruin my life. When I arrived, I was directed to a private office in a sleek, modern building. I felt my pulse quicken as I waited, and then David walked in, a tall, sharply dressed man with the easy confidence of someone who never expected to be called out. He stopped in his tracks when he saw me, and for a moment, his composure slipped. You're David, right? I asked, my voice flat, steely. He gave a tight nod, quickly regaining his poise. Yes, and you are. I'm Lisa's husband. The words hung in the air, and I watched his face as they hit him. He opened his mouth to respond, but I didn't give him the chance. We need to talk. Now. David shifted uncomfortably but motioned toward a seat in his office. I ignored the offer and remained standing. I know what's going on between you and Lisa, I said bluntly. I found the receipts, the emails, everything. David's face hardened. I think you're misunderstanding. Don't insult me by lying, I interrupted, my tone sharp. I've seen the dates. I've seen the charges. I've seen the investments you've been making together. So let's cut the act. He was silent, his jaw tightening as he realized he had no way out. You will end this, I continued, barely able to keep my voice steady. Not just whatever you have with her, but your business relationship as well. I want you out of her life, professionally and personally. David folded his arms, glancing away with a slight smirk that made my blood boil. With all due respect, he said, his voice smooth and detached, I don't take orders from you. This is between Lisa and me. Not anymore, it isn't, I snapped. You think this is just a game? That you can walk into my life, use my wife for whatever you want, and I'm just supposed to sit back and let it happen? I don't think so. David's calm demeanor finally cracked. Look, he said, exasperated, Lisa is her own person. She made her choices, and I don't think it's up to you to dictate what she does. Then let me make it clear. I stepped closer, looking him straight in the eyes. If you don't end this, I will make sure every connection you've built with her, every project, every business deal, unravels. You can consider it a warning. He stared back, a hint of uncertainty creeping into his gaze. For the first time, I saw him hesitate, weighing his options. Fine, he said quietly, a hint of resentment lacing his tone. I'll step back. But don't expect this to fix everything between you and Lisa. I don't need advice from you on my marriage, I said coldly. Just stay away from her. I turned and walked out without another word, leaving him standing in his office, the weight of my threat hanging in the air. As I exited the building, a strange calm settled over me. It wasn't the end of the fight, far from it. But for the first time since I'd found that tie, I felt like I had some control back. The confrontation with David had been a necessary first step, but it was just the beginning. Back home, I felt a new sense of resolve. I had found a way to reclaim my life, and I wasn't about to let Lisa's betrayal continue without consequences. I was done being the passive husband who accepted her excuses and deflected her negligence. Now, it was my turn to take charge. As the days turned into weeks, I threw myself into Lisa's business, digging deep into her finances, her contacts, and every investment she had made. Each email I uncovered, each document I perused, added to the mounting evidence of her dishonesty, not just with me, but within her professional world. I knew I needed to tread carefully. Lisa still had a career to maintain, and I didn't want to destroy everything she had worked for outright. But the balance of power had shifted, and she needed to understand that. One evening, I called her into the living room after a long day of combing through her paperwork. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the room, creating an atmosphere that felt heavier than usual. Lisa, we need to talk, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She walked in, her expression guarded. Is this about David again? It's about you, I replied, cutting her off before she could dismiss my concerns. I've been going through the finances. There are things I need to discuss with you. She crossed her arms, defensively. What have you found? I took a deep breath, mentally preparing myself for the confrontation. I know about your investments with David, the trips, the dinners. I know more than you think. Her eyes widened, and for a moment, I could see a flicker of fear. You shouldn't be looking at my business records. That's private. It's private. I repeated incredulously. You think this is just about your business? You've dragged me into this mess. You've hurt me, Lisa, and I want to know how deep this goes. I'm not discussing this with you, she snapped, but there was a tremor in her voice. Too late for that, I shot back, pacing the room, my heart racing. You've made this personal. You need to understand that every choice you've made has consequences. I'm not going to let you keep treating me like a fool. She opened her mouth to retort, but I pressed on. If you want to salvage your career, you're going to have to cooperate. I'm going to need access to your accounts, your contacts. I'm taking control of your business affairs. You'll still be the face of the company, but I will be the one making the decisions. Lisa's expression hardened. You can't just take over my business. This is my life's work. You're being unreasonable, unreasonable. I echoed, my voice rising. You're the one who's been dishonest, and now I'm being unreasonable for wanting to fix the damage. You're going to have to accept my terms, or I will make this entire situation public. You'll lose everything. She looked away, her jaw clenched. And what if I refuse? I stepped closer, lowering my voice to a dangerous whisper. Then you'll regret it. I promise you, I won't go easy on you. You think the fallout from this affair is bad? Just wait until I expose it. You'd lose everything you've built. A tense silence hung in the air, the weight of my words pressing down on us. I could see the wheels turning in her head, the conflict etched across her face. Fine, she finally said, her voice shaky. I'll cooperate. But this doesn't mean I'm giving up on us. I scoffed, incredulous. You think we can just go back to the way things were? That I can pretend this never happened? I didn't say that, she replied, her voice softening. But we need to work together, at least for the business. We owe that to ourselves. Working together is the only way you're going to salvage your reputation, I shot back, my anger still simmering beneath the surface. And remember, I'm doing this for me as much as for you. I won't be a puppet in your little play. Over the next few days, I immersed myself in her world, becoming her business partner in every sense. I attended meetings she had avoided, reviewed contracts, and even restructured some of her major investments. With each new piece of information I unearthed, I felt a thrill, a mix of revenge and satisfaction that I hadn't anticipated. One afternoon, as we went over some financial reports, I noticed her growing increasingly frustrated with the changes I was implementing. "Do you really think you can just change everything overnight?" she snapped, throwing her pen down. "These people have been my partners for years. They won't accept this sudden shift." I met her gaze with a steely determination. "They will if you make it clear that I'm in charge now. You don't get to keep your secrets while I clean up your mess." "I hate this," she said, her voice strained. "I hate that you're doing this to me. And I hate that you put me in this position," I shot back. "You think I wanted to take over your life? You made this choice, Lisa. You chose David, and now you're going to deal with the fallout." Her silence spoke volumes. I could see the anger, the shame, the regret swirling within her. She didn't want to admit it, but she knew I was right. Each day felt like a battle, and every victory I claimed pushed her further into a corner. As the days turned into weeks, I reveled in my newfound power. I was no longer the husband waiting for her to come home, I was her partner in business, but also her adversary, and the dynamic shifted more drastically with each passing moment. The thrill of control was intoxicating, and I could sense that Lisa was starting to understand the stakes. "Remember, Lisa," I said one evening as we wrapped up a meeting, "this isn't just about business anymore. It's personal. And every decision you make from here on out will reflect your commitment to fixing this. You can either step up or watch everything you've built fall apart." As I watched her nod reluctantly, I felt a grim sense of satisfaction. The power had shifted, and with it, the battle lines were drawn. Our marriage had transformed into a chess game, each move calculated, each consequence weighing heavily on both our shoulders. I was no longer just a hurt husband, I was a man seeking retribution. And Lisa was about to find out just how far I was willing to go. The air in our home felt charged, heavy with tension. Weeks of navigating this strange new arrangement had left us both exhausted. Lisa and I had transformed into reluctant allies, each step forward burdened by the weight of our past. But I knew this uneasy alliance wouldn't last. The final confrontation was coming, it was only a matter of time. It was late one evening when the moment arrived. Lisa sat at the dining table, her laptop open in front of her, papers strewn about. I could see the familiar signs of stress etched across her face, the way she upsetly twisted a lock of hair around her finger. I had been digging deeper, uncovering even more evidence of her affair with David, things she hadn't mentioned, things that made the betrayal cut even deeper. I placed a stack of documents on the table, watching as she glanced up, her expression shifting from annoyance to apprehension. "What now?" she asked, fatigue lacing her voice. "Now we talk about this." I gestured to the papers, my heart pounding. I found more emails, ones that detail everything you and David discussed. Investments, plans, personal messages. "It's all here." Her eyes widened as she reached for the papers, flipping through them frantically. "You shouldn't be going through my things, Jack. This is invasive." "I'm done with your excuses, Lisa," I said sharply, leaning closer, my voice low but firm. "This isn't just about business anymore. You've crossed a line, and I won't let you pretend it didn't happen." She sighed, running a hand through her hair, clearly overwhelmed. "I know I messed up, but can't we just focus on fixing things? I want to make this work." I shook my head, anger flaring up again. "You think we can just move forward? That I can forget the lies, the deception? Do you really believe that? I've seen how you and David communicated. You think I'll just pretend I didn't find out about your plans to partner with him on that new venture?" Her face paled as she absorbed the weight of my words. "That was a mistake. I never intended for it to go that far. I thought I could manage it all without hurting you." "Manage?" I scoffed, my voice rising. This isn't just a business deal, Lisa. This is my life. You've been playing with fire, and now you're surprised that you got burned. Jack, please, she said, her voice breaking. I didn't want any of this. I was confused, and it just happened. It was a mistake I deeply regret. Regret? I repeated incredulously. You regret getting caught, not the affair itself. If you really wanted to fix this, you would have come clean the moment you started hiding things. But you didn't, did you? She looked away, tears glistening in her eyes. I was scared, okay? I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to hurt you. Too late for that, I replied, my heart heavy. You've already hurt me, and now it's my turn to make sure you understand the consequences of your actions. What do you mean? She asked, her voice trembling. I leaned back, steeling myself for what I was about to say. I'm going to expose everything, Lisa. I'll let everyone know about your affair. The board, our friends, the media. You think you can salvage your reputation after this? You've tarnished everything, and now it's time for you to face the music. She jumped up from the table, her face a mix of disbelief and rage. You wouldn't dare. You'd ruin my entire career. I won't let you walk away unscathed, I said firmly. You want to maintain your career after all this? Then you better start taking accountability. You'll have to fight to keep your business afloat, and I'll be the one pushing you every step of the way. Jack, you can't do this, she pleaded, her voice breaking. You can't just tear everything down out of anger. I know I hurt you, but I'm trying to make things right. Trying isn't good enough anymore, Lisa, I said, my tone hardening. This isn't just about you anymore. You made your choices, and now it's my turn to make mine. I never wanted it to come to this, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. I loved you, Jack. I still do. I took a step back, feeling the sting of her words like a slap. If you loved me, you would have thought of that before getting involved with someone else. Love isn't supposed to hurt like this, Lisa. She fell silent, the reality of my words settling between us like an insurmountable wall. What do you want me to do? She finally asked, her voice raw. I want you to show me that you can fight for what we had, I replied, my voice softer now, but resolute. You need to prove that you can own up to your mistakes. If you want to save anything from this, you'll need to cut all ties with David. No more communication, no more partnerships. Fine, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, I'll do it. I'll sever all ties. Good, I said, the tension still thick in the air. But know this is just the first step. If you slip up again, I won't hesitate to expose everything. With that, I turned and walked away, the weight of our confrontation hanging heavily in the air. I felt a strange mix of victory and emptiness as I left the room. I had claimed my power back, but at what cost? The home we built together felt less like a sanctuary and more like a battleground, a reminder of everything we had lost. As I closed the door behind me, I couldn't shake the feeling that this fight was far from over. There was still so much at stake, and I had to remain vigilant. The end of our battle was not in sight, but one thing was clear, would no longer be the passive participant in this story. The consequences of her actions were unfolding, and I would make sure Lisa understood the true meaning of accountability. Our lives had taken a dark turn, but I was prepared to navigate the chaos. It was a fight for survival now, and I was determined to emerge victorious, no matter the cost.